today I am so happy to be joined by one of my favorite Instagram accounts online and merchants to buy from, TopShelfThreadz, aka Mike. Mike, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here today.
Hey Dan, long time listener, first time caller. Sorry, that was a terrible joke.
No,
I just always do
I
that.
love it. I appreciate you being on here, and what better way to take a break from checking the latest alerts I've got on my jersey ones I want to buy than to talk about hockey jerseys with a guy I love to buy from. So, uh, for all of our listeners out there, today's November 1st, which is daylight savings time, and this time around you turn back your clocks. And I know Mike from buying turn back the clock jerseys towards my collection of the original six. So it's a great day to have you on, talk a little bit about hockey jerseys, the vintage there and stuff like that. So Mike, why don't you just say hi and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Yeah, so my name's Mike. I'm originally from just a little town outside of Buffalo, New York. So right by Niagara Falls. So always been a huge hockey fan growing up. Since then, I went to Clemson for college. So after college, I moved down to Atlanta, and so that was about 6 or 7 years ago. So just been down in Atlanta ever since. So
Gotcha. So you kind of showed up right when the Thrashers had recently left town and moved to Winnipeg.
right, yeah. So when I was in Clemson, it's only about an hour and a half, a little bit, with traffic, probably 2 hours to get to Atlanta. So I was fortunate enough to be at Clemson while they're still down here. So I went to two games. This is a bit of a hassle to get out there, but yeah, it's a bummer to lose them, twice in the city. So especially now that I'm down here, the closest thing I have is Nashville. So when my Sabres are playing in Nashville, I usually try and go down there and get a game in. So if it's on like a weekend or so, but
Yeah,
that's it.
that's a fan right there traveling for his team and also a hockey fan just to be going to games even when it's like out of the way but the closest to you. And I've always wanted to be able to either catch a game from every team or catch a game in every stadium. So that's pretty cool that you got that experience twice. Even if it was just twice, I think that's pretty cool. And
Yeah. Oh, sorry to cut you off, but
no, go ahead,
before we move
please.
on, yeah, I was just gonna say that like it's funny you mentioned that because my last job, even my job I have now, I travel a bunch. So if I'm in a city that and there's a game playing that night, I do my best to try and get out there. So I've knocked off a few. I want to say probably like 10 or so different arenas and watching games at them. In my travels. So I usually try and do that if I get a chance, if they're in town that weekend and there's a game that night.
That's really cool. I like to hear that. Do you take does it go as far as to try to take maybe a jersey from one of those 2 teams that'll be playing, or are you maybe like, "Screw it, I'm gonna wear my Sabres jerseys no matter what," or is that your turn to maybe flex something, from the collection, or do you just kinda, like, enjoy the atmosphere and stay out of it?
So unless I truly can't stand that team or I really like the team that they're playing, I'll usually try and rock a jersey from the home team and pull for them. Um, Unless it's like I'm in Boston watching the Bruins. I just couldn't do that to myself to cheer them on. But yeah, I'll usually take one from my collection and if I have one from that team and wear it for the game and kind of cheer on the home team and just kind of take it all in.
Yeah, that's a good way to make friends instead of enemies too, I think, and,
Right.
I think that's a really sweet way to add to the atmosphere and enjoyment of it because I know when I wear my jerseys in stadiums, sometimes they end up being, a quick head nod or maybe like a quick conversation starter around something. So I think that's
Mhm.
also pretty cool. So that's nice to hear. I hope to travel to more games too. It's always neat if like your team's from way out of town and you're in like a area like Northeast US where when the Canucks go on that road trip, like if I were out there, out of Boston, for example, I could see like them play Boston, the Islanders, the Rangers, like all those teams in one road trip over like 7 days, and I'd be like so happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten out to Vancouver to watch a game there. One thing that I picked up on, so I've been to a couple Canadian teams. So I went to Vancouver, Ottawa, Calgary. I didn't get to see Montreal. I got to see a stadium, but they weren't. It was not during their season. But one thing that I noticed that I found kind of interesting was that like whenever I go watch a game in like a Canadian team's arena, like the fans are just like so focused on the game and just like quietly like just sitting there just watching
Mhm.
everything like intently. And it was like it was like it kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, are these people like not like they're not getting into it? But then I'm looking around, I'm realizing that like everyone's just so intently watching and like focusing and not like just talking to like the person next to her and stuff like that. That just like they'll cheer and stuff and go get wild when there's like a goal and stuff like that or a fight. But like it was like a different experience going like compared to like other games where it's just like loud the whole time. Everyone's just kind of at the Canadian games, like just sitting there, just watching it so intently. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a funny observation, I like hearing that, that's just reminding me of this time I went and saw my buddy who was working out of, Philadelphia at the time, and we're watching this, rivalry take place between the Flyers and Penguins, and I was like, "Sweet, I finally got to see, like, Crosby play a game and, Giroux play a game," and I'm watching the game intently, and then all of a sudden, like, all this ruckus, and I'm like, "What am I missing?" Because I don't have, like, the greatest seat, and it's just the guys are cheering because there's a fight between a Flyers and a Penguins fan in, like, the 2nd row, and they're tumbling down the stairs together, and I'm like, "Okay."
Oh, that's perfect.
Um, man, I gotta ask you about, Rick Jeanneret as a Sabres fan. Like,
Oh my god. Yeah.
what do you like about him, and what does he mean to you as a Sabres fan?
I mean, what's not to love about that guy? I mean, he makes the most like boring. I mean, and there's been a ton of boring games in the past 20 years watching the Sabres. You know how poorly they've done, but I mean, just listening to him is just like he makes everything sound exciting. He just gets pumped up. And you could tell he just loves it, and I think he's got maybe one more year. He said or something like that. But like, I know it's just not going to be the same after he retires.
Yeah,
Like we've been getting like a little like taste of like other announcers and stuff, because he's not doing all the season like the whole season anymore. I think it's like tough for him, but when
understandable.
you have someone else in there, it's just like a completely different game you're watching. It's just it doesn't feel the same, and yeah, it's gonna be tough to watch after he leaves.
It's interesting how, like, we're gonna lose him and Doc Emmerich in, like, the span of a couple years, and those are some really, like, household names and household voices in the
Hmm.
game of have you had a chance to see the documentary Top Shelf?
No,
Alright,
I actually
have you heard of it?
no.
So, it's definitely worth checking out because it's only about 15 minutes, but it's a video documentary about Rick Jeanneret, and,
Interesting.
it's a really fun thing, and it's definitely striking chords about what you're talking about, so I know you'll like that, and he's 100% the reason why my Sabres jersey in my 31 is, LaFontaine because of that
Yeah.
call, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Uh
Yeah, just a classic. Yeah, I definitely gotta give that a try. Listen, didn't even know that existed. That's awesome.
So let me ask you before we move on to a little bit of some trivia I got lined up. But what do you think of this Taylor Hall signing in Buffalo?
So I love the call. I mean, we especially that as a signing and not a trade, so we didn't have to give anything up for it. It's a 1-year deal, so it's kind of like they're both kind of trying to. It seems like they're both trying to prove themselves. Like the Sabres are trying to prove themselves to him as like a contender, and then he's trying to prove himself as like someone worthy of a big contract.
Yeah.
So it's I like it. I'm skeptical that it's not going to be a long-term fit for them. I don't think he's going to want to sign long-term with them. It all depends on how they do next year, and I think if they do well, then he'll sign. But if they struggle again, I think he's going to want to go to a contender, seeing how he's been with some teams that have struggled to at least go anywhere in the playoffs. It seems like so. I think if a team does well and they go decently far in the playoffs, which is a bit of a stretch, I think he'll sign. But I think he's just going to end up being a 1-year deal, kind of like a test it out, and then he'll kind of move on to a team where he can win a cup.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation. I look at it too for it's a very interesting experiment going on in Buffalo. You've got a lot of firepower now up front, and I think some of the comments that Eichel made at the end of the season last year, maybe Hall can come in and also help in a little bit of a locker room and leadership role, and maybe that
Mhm.
chemistry works or maybe it doesn't. And I think we're going to find out. And if God forbid, like things don't go so well, um, Hall said he wanted to play for a contender. So I think going into this, he's optimistic things work out. But if not, it gives the Sabres some options to move him to a contender and then maybe stash some picks for the next years to come as well. So we'll see how that
Yeah,
works out. Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
I just feel for Sabres fans because you've had really passionate fans. They're always voted near the top of the league in those that are like passionate about it and love the game. So it certainly seems like a city that deserves it, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. They've had some good teams in the past. They just kind of you know for one thing or another, they just can't get it. Besides that 1 year to the Stanley Cup, so hopefully they'll start to put things together and get a good base and foundation to build around.
So let me ask you, Mike, of today's November 1st, and I'm curious what we like to do here is ask our guests, either based on the episode number or the date or whatever, uh, what's your favorite player to have ever worn the number one and why?
All right, let me think about this one. All right, so I actually play in like just like a men's league, and I play goalie. And one of the things I've always hated was when goalies wear like number one or like zero or 00. Shout out Marty Baron, last person to ever wear 00. Um, I'm gonna lead it that that I can't stand when goalies wear one, but it seems like thinking through all the players that have worn one, it's the only ones that come to mind are like goalies. So I'm kind of locked in there. I think so. I'm trying to think of some savers. I think so. Enroth wore
Right.
one.
Hmm.
They, they have some guy in the minors. His name's like a mouthful. It's like Uka, Pekka, Lukanen, just a lot of K's thrown in there. I think he rocks number one.
Did Marty Baron wear number one after he wore 00 as well?
I think so. I can't remember exactly. I think he went. He might have gone. I know he's in like the 30s
I
in
know he
his
went like
career,
43 as
or
well.
43. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a good question. If he wore one, I don't know.
All right.
We'll add him to the lookup. We'll look that one up later and see, and then that might be in there in the running. Trying to think of Ron Tugnut. That's a great name.
Oh
So I
my
think
gosh, great name.
one for
Yeah.
great hockey name. Let's see, Roman Turek for the Flames. He was one. I had a kind of a Flames kick when I was they were kind of like my second team when Iginla was there, so it was more of a Kiprasov guy than Turek, but he was
Yeah,
there around.
I think he was there with the horse head times in one way or
Oh yeah,
another. I see him in like a cool mask that way too. I remember now.
right.
We have some
Yeah,
legends like Johnny Bower and Jacques Plante and Terry Sawchuk that all wore number 1 as goalies.
that's true. Yeah, those are all good ones. A little before my time. Let's see. I think you correct me if I'm wrong. I think Jim Craig rocked the
Yes,
number one
for
with
the
Atlanta. So
and
that's
for the
kind of like
Flames, that's right.
yeah, so that's kind of like a double hometown. You got the US and the Atlanta going there for that one. So and then
You know what I
what
like
else?
about that
Milwaukee.
Atlanta Flames jersey, just because it reminded me you brought up Calgary before that. When they moved to Calgary and then later when they changed their jerseys, the A for the assistant captain is the A
Hmm.
from the Atlanta Flames.
Yeah, it's such a nice little
Such a little
touch.
touch. I love it.
And then one of your buddies,
That's
Luongo.
my guy. Yeah, Bobby Lou,
Uh,
Strombone 1.
yeah, so I would like to say one of the older guys, but like I was never. I don't know much about him. Didn't watch him, so like talking about from like the 50s, 60s, that era. So I guess from that list, maybe Luongo. I always appreciated Luongo, so
Well, you
we'll go
continue
with
to
that
win
one
me
for me.
over because that's who I had for sure. I wanna add one of the things that I think is super cool, about how they did his retirement, in Florida was,
Hmm.
when the technology started coming out from some of the later All-Star Game jerseys where they could, like, laser cut the, like, the numbers to let the, like, material
Yeah,
show through. Uh, did you catch how Luongo's jersey, like, had all of his, career stats kind of, like, in the number instead of, like, those
really.
really ugly ones that you see on eBay that, like, sew the
Yeah,
stats
like,
into it? I hate those, but
yeah,
this is so cool. Like, if you look up the Luongo, like, jersey retirement, it's in this, like, really faint lettering inside the number, and I'm like, "That is so dope." I think that's so
that's really.
cool. So
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's yeah, that would be. I'd like to see what that looks like. So that's pretty cool the way they did that.
alright, so that's maybe a good segue into some trivia. The way it works here, Mike, is, I'm gonna give you 3 questions. Don't worry, they're all multiple choice or true, false. And
Okay.
if you get 2 out of 3 right, you get a gift from our sponsor, which is pretty neat. It's just too bad that right now we don't have any sponsors, so you just get bragging rights, okay?
All right.
Maybe
I'm all for it.
maybe I can send you a tub of Oxi-Clean or something. Who knows?
It would be reviews for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Soup it up. Okay, so this is centered around the turn back the clock theme that we're going with this episode too. So your first question is a multiple choice, and it goes like this. So Detroit's jersey, the turn back the clock jersey for Detroit, is a nod to the Detroit Cougars hockey team.
Mm.
And the question is why were they called the Detroit Cougars? And is it A, because the team was partially owned by Barnaby Bailey's Circus? Uh, B, it's just the team name that's left over from being bought from Victoria? Or C, because the Detroit nightclub scene at the time featured a plethora of older single women and they wanted to attract a different fan base?
I want it to be the last one, although I don't think that's why they named it. So I'll go with the circus one. That's kind of a fun answer.
It is, but that is unfortunately incorrect. Uh, the Detroit Cougars are a byproduct of the Western Canadian Hockey League folding back in the 1920s, and a group of Detroit owners bought the team and moved it to Detroit, and they just stuck with the name for the first little while. Kinda like how, the Los Angeles Lakers basketball team stuck with Lakers even though there's no lakes in around Los Angeles because they moved from Minnesota.
Yeah,
So, I think that's predominantly why, Detroit Cougars was the name, 'cause, it was the Victoria Cougars before that, which were the last hockey team in the West to win a Stanley Cup, forever until the LA Kings did it in the 2000s.
that's crazy.
Yeah. So you get trivia and a little history with all these answers. Okay.
I like that.
So true false for your next question. And this is related to the New York Rangers turn back the clock jersey. Um, this jersey, true or false, was also not only a nod to the earliest days of the franchise, but they're also identical to an old Fort Worth minor league Rangers hockey team.
Go true.
Yeah. So ding, ding, ding. And
Going forward.
yeah, so it's kind of interesting just for anyone trying to collect those Ranger TBTCs out there, just maybe ask that extra question. Hey, is this a Fort Worth Rangers jersey that's modded into a TBTC or what's going on here? Um,
Yeah.
the other thing I wanted to throw in there, and it's kind of cool that you brought this up on your own, but there's this player back on that team named Paul Bibeault, Bibeault, and he was one of the very few and only players to wear number 0. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
All right.
Look at that.
So here's your last question. It's also multiple choice. So the Turn Back the Clock series was done in 1991 and 92, and this was also the season that saw a new team enter the league. Was it A, the San Jose Sharks, B, the Colorado Avalanche, or C, the Tampa Bay Lightning?
I know it's not the Avalanche because they were 95, I believe. 95, 96. So the I want to say I know the Sharks played that year because I know they had the 75th patch
Ooh,
on their
this is
jersey.
good.
I've seen a bunch of stuff. So I know for sure they were there, and it was around then when they um, were created. So I don't think they're. I know that the Lightning was got to be around then, but I don't think it was that early. So I'm gonna go with the Sharks.
Ding, ding, ding. All right. You're the proud owner
Saved
of
it.
a new tub of Oxi-Clean.
Awesome.
Can
Oh my god.
that's pretty sweet, man. Yeah, you're absolutely correct, and I liked your thought there. So the Tampa Bay Lightning came into the league the year after, and I didn't look it up, but the Avalanche, the 95 seems about right. So good job on the memory bank there. You know what's interesting about the Sharks starting that year is it's the last year, sorry, the year before 90-91. It's the last year that the Minnesota North Stars existed before moving to Dallas. And
Ah,
what's interesting about why that kind of happened is the owners of the Minnesota team, George and Gordon Gund, they agree to sell their shares of the Minnesota North Stars and pursue a new franchise in California called the San Jose Sharks.
that's interesting.
And those
Yeah.
owners, they're actually the same owners that are responsible for the Golden Seals not working out in California and ending up in Cleveland. So it was a
Ah.
very interesting gamble to go back there after, moving the Minnesota North Stars, like out of, hockey, War Road,
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota stuff, like that's crazy to do
Right.
that. So it was a pretty contentious time around there. And to say of all places that you're going to disband the team and try it again in California must have been interesting. for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man. Well, good job there. Hope maybe what I'll try to do is sell you a jersey at the same time and be like, so anyway, that
I like
actually wanted that's a good segue into what I did want to talk about with you as well, which is just you I think are similar, like on a similar path of other hockey jersey addicts, where you buy, collect, and then maybe decide, I've got a lot here. Maybe I could start selling. And I love that you've got a sweet website up for us to cruise. It's www.topshelfthreadz with a Z or a Z, depending on your country affiliation of pride. And then you've got like just a crazy collection of authentics and replicas. And similar to sometimes what I hear people ask, like, what's on your playlist? I'm kind of curious, Mike, as a collector and seller, what's in your watch list?
my watch list. So, sticking with the theme, definitely trying to get some authentic turn back the clock jerseys still. So those a little tougher to find,
Very tough to
especially
find.
48. So I got to be patient with that one. Um, Let me see. I've been looking for a Wild Wing for a while, but I don't want to shell out too much for it, just because they're like just getting real crazy expensive right now. Um, Trying to think of what other ones were kind of in my list. I can actually look through.
I like how you
Uh,
actually have the watch list available. And
I know I have no, I have a fisherman jersey, but it's a 52. I really need a 48. So I'm hold. I do this thing where I hold on to jerseys that don't quite fit just until I find one that does fit. So that one's another one that I'm looking for where I don't want to shell out too much for it. And I always appreciate the like the Montreal Centennial jerseys. I got a barber pole one with Carey Price on it. It's an authentic one. So that one I haven't worn yet because I'm afraid to wear it because it's
yeah,
just so. But I eventually once I get after I knock out the turn back the clocks, all of those, I'll maybe try and pursue the rest of the other authentic uh, Montreal Canadiens 100th anniversary ones because those. I guess I got a gamer for the blue one,
oh, what?
but yeah,
Holy
it
shit.
wasn't anyone that's like worth writing home about, but like it was still pretty cool to find it. So I snagged that one. I haven't decided what I want to do with that yet. It's just kind of in a box right now.
But
But
yeah, I can understand not wanting to like wear them or touch them and stuff too. It's kind of interesting. It's like I want to look at you, but from a safe distance.
yeah, yeah, there's like probably like I'd say five or so jerseys that I got like neatly folded in a box in like Ziploc bags, like where I don't want usually like either autographs or just like a real nice jersey that I know I don't want to wear. So until I figure out a way to frame them or hang them up or something like that, that's kind of where they're sitting, just neatly tucked away safely.
That's smart too. And I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with my collecting is I'm in a place right now where I finally have the wall space to put some of these up, and it's exciting, but also kind of terrifying because then you're like, I have the wall space to complete the collection that I've only had like 2 of the 6 of or something like that. So then
Right.
you start chasing after your grails, and that's a healthy part of the habit and addiction, I think. But,
Right.
yeah, those are some bangers that you mentioned. I know that one of my friends, the Jersey Keeper, uh, he's got one of those Wild Wings that Adidas made, uh,
Mm,
and, like, I think it's like a 50 something, but it's just amazing to see that that exists because it's just one of those jerseys like the Wild Wing where you're just like, every time you see one, you're just like, "Oh my god." like, I just wanna look at you for a while, like, I want you in my hands, but it's just so nice to see you alive online again, you know? Like, I'm glad people still are making sure these things exist and, stay the test of time, and you do a good job of that, man. Because like, my grails, like, or my watch list, it's basically what's on your site right now. You've got the authentic spaghetti skate. You've got a, uh, Brian Trottier turn back the clock all-star gamer, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, "Damn." So that's my ultimate favorite jersey, the '92 All-Star game, and my probably most prized possession right now is I've got the, CCM Heritage Line wool sweater version of it,
Hmm.
and I'm just debating if I wanna, eat ramen for 3 months or buy an authentic, I think, at this point, 'cause I'd love to own one, but they're also pretty pricey because 'cause they're so rare, and I
Right.
I I never know sometimes if it's rare because everyone loves them or rare like the, Wild Wings where it's like they're rare because people hated them, so they never got produced a lot, so you're lucky if you find one, you know?
Right. Yeah, and if that Chartier was a couple sizes bigger, then it definitely would not be on my site and be in my closet. But yeah, I do have a Gretzky one, so I think his is the other. He was the other color in the two. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he wore the red one.
You had the red.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So I do have. I was able to track one down for an authentic Gretzky All Star one. So I do have that one. So
That's
I don't know if I
amazing.
need both of them. So
Well,
we're good with that.
yeah,
Oh.
man. So, uh, from the time that you've kind of been collecting, and sounds like you've got both some great things in your watch list, some grails that I'm jealous of, and just some incredible ones for sale. Like, from the years that you've been selling and stuff, have there been any funny stories that have come about either from like a a negotiation gone wrong or someone that clearly doesn't know how to haggle, or just some kind of like funny or horror story or anything from your time in the trenches that you'd like to share with us?
So there haven't been, I've all of my interactions with like the customers have generally been positive. There hasn't really been um any ones that stand out like negatively or odd, or everyone's usually pretty friendly and nice and appreciative and stuff like that. And I'm kind of the same way. Whenever I buy stuff, I try and um thank the person, especially if they do a good job like packaging it and stuff like that. Far as like horror stories, there's been a couple scares with jerseys that I just ruined just trying to clean them. Um, the worst one was it was like a 70s. It wasn't that worth that much. So it wasn't too. I still have it. I gotta figure out what I want to do with it, but it's like a 70s Rangers jersey, but it was screen printed and it had a bunch. It was yellowed, so I tried dumping it in a bunch of Oxi-Clean overnight, and it just all of the blue just
Oh
because it
no.
was the white jersey. Yeah, it was the white jersey, and all of the blue from the screen print just like color basically turned it to like a light blue jersey. So I definitely have been a little careful since then. I've gotten into some trouble with bleed, like the colors bleeding, but I've been able to successfully get those cleaned. So fortunately, so I did have one where sold a jersey on eBay. It was a Sharks. It was an authentic Sharks jersey, and sold. It was like sold it for like 300 $350, and the post office kind of lost it for a little bit. It was taking forever to get out there, and then so like eBay wasn't intervening because they didn't because it was still kind of showing as in transit, and they said like there's nothing we can do. And then finally they something weird happened with like the guy is like, all right, this has been a month now, and I haven't gotten the jersey, and so he asked for a refund, and so eBay kind of accepted it, and it was on like me to work it out with USPS, and then it like all of a sudden just started like showing as it was in transit again, and then like it showed up at the person's house, and then eBay kind of still sided with them, and he's claimed that it didn't show up there. So I kind of lost out on that one. That one kind of sucked for a little bit because I lost the jersey and the money
Oh,
from it.
yeah.
So
And then instead of being like, "Never mind, I found it." Here,
right,
yeah, I'll
yeah,
cancel that request. It's like, "Sweet, free
yeah,
jersey. I don't care about you."
I know. I was like, I know it showed up, and I know he has it, but I have no proof for that. So I kind of that was kind of the worst one, horror story that I could think of. Still kind of bothers me when I think about it. I get a little PTSD from it, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, other than that, it's pretty.
Post-traumatic selling disorder,
Yeah,
huh?
exactly. Yeah, or post traumatic sharks disorder.
Nice. Well, that's pretty good, actually. I think that's nice to hear, and that's what I love about hockey jerseys and collecting as well, is that most of the time, I'm just firing questions at you about hockey jerseys, and then all of a sudden we're talking about documentaries to check out, or, oh man, I didn't know that
Yeah.
that grail existed, or that's a sweet story about that franchise. So I think like that's part of the fun of it too, is that most people collecting like maybe stuff like you and I, or whatever it is that they do collect, it's really the beauty's in the eye of the beholder, or the stories behind why people love what you would think as ugly is just super interesting. So,
Hmm. Right.
so on that, Mike, I'd just like to say thanks so much for hopping on the podcast today. Really appreciate it. Before I let you go, why don't you tell the fine folks out there where everyone can find you?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned earlier, I got my website. That's where I have everything most up to date. So it's Top Shelf Threads with a Z. And on there, you can find all of my contact information. I'm on Instagram. Um, and then I do sell some stuff on eBay, but not as much. So, yeah, if you want like the most up to date stuff that I'm selling, it's going to be on my website. My Instagram's just at TopShelfThreadz. Same thing with the Z. Um, so those are kind of I post mostly on Instagram. So I would go there if you're going to follow it. So I'm usually pretty good about posting new stuff on there, new inventory to the website, and just other random hockey jersey stuff, whether it's new releases and my 2 cents on those. So
Yeah, plus like one of the things I think is really cool about uh your handle is you just show off some of these just incredible jerseys that are just like so fun to look over, but you also do a trivia, right? So
yeah,
that's always fun. I always like subscribing to your channel cuz like maybe if I don't like want to empty the wallet this week, I'm always interested with the question you come up with, and the first person to get the right answer gets some money off their next jersey, right?
yeah. So if you're the first person to guess it right, you get 10% off and free shipping. So definitely can go a long way with some of these more expensive jerseys. So I do it every Tuesday, Trivia Tuesday. And then there's a couple other ideas I have in the works. I'll probably bring back Dollar Jers Thurs. So that's I was doing that for a while on eBay, where every Thursday I'd just list a jersey for it starting at $1
Let it
and
ride.
just kind of let it ride. And
Nice.
so I'll probably bring that back. And I got some other ideas that I'll probably do as well. So yeah, follow on Instagram for sure if you're interested. That's the best place, and where I offer most of my deals and discounts and fun stuff like trivia.
Sweet, Mike. Well, thanks so much again for joining us today, and Have a great day. Make sure to set your clocks back. Maybe walk around with one of those TBTCs on. Uh,
Exactly.
and you have a great one.
All right, you too. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Bye.
All right, see you.